because obviously you're not concentrating on the TV channel anymore, or the program. But the others stayed the same. And then 45% used to download applications, 34% checked, sports scores, 29% looked at information related to the program. So if you're a media owner, that's very important, because the question that rises is, how do I direct my, an advertising slot on TV, which is 30 seconds, back to online, and how do I get them to interact between each other to maximize, the exposure of my brand? Because you only have maybe 10, 15, 30-second slots on TV. Online, you can get a lot more engagement, right? So one screen, two screen, big screen, small screen, it all becomes part of that process. And again, your brand becomes exposed and it becomes vulnerable to what's being said on the social media space. So that also means that people can complain about you more, they can praise you more, they can recommend you more, and they can caution about you more. And it's whenever, however, wherever, as we saw, because smartphones, as they penetrate the markets, most of the Middle Eastern markets more and more, that becomes more accessible. Now, another interesting fact is that emerging markets, which is the small kind of humans on the bottom left and right, 32% of people online, okay, actually, in the emerging markets, actually use social media as a form to try and get some kind of customer relationship feedback from companies. Whereas in the West, it's only 10%. And that's high. Because what that means is people are looking for quick answers and they're looking for good answers on this platform, because it's a form of engagement. Yes, I'm not suggesting in any way that call centers are going to go extinct tomorrow, okay? No, they are going to be there. And if you're a business that you have that, then it's very important to take this into consideration. But they are looking for that, okay? So what does that again mean to us if we're a business that need that? Well, customer satisfaction to most of us is at the center or at the core of everything we do. Happy customers means more money. Simple formula, right? Nothing too complicated about it. But getting a happy customer is very hard. Getting an unhappy customer is extremely easy, as we all know. Okay? And I'm going to quickly show the impact of that a little later as well, and why, again, customer satisfaction and customer relationship on social media becomes important. So, just a quick map here. Why is it that we should take note as companies or brands about social media and their impact? First of all, I don't know, you probably all know this, but 53% of Egypt's population is less than 24 years of age. This is not a Nielsen survey, this is a general survey, okay? And that means that you have, we have a very young population. And young population also means that they're very adaptive, and they're quick adapters to new technology, and they're born into this social media world. Most of us here, I can assume, we're very young, I'm sure, but most of us are adapting to this new kind of way of life. Whereas a lot of our children are born into it, and there's a huge difference. So what it does is it actually amplifies, okay, the future generation's expectations of a brand or a service. Okay, so very, very important to make sure. So whatever customer satisfaction processes and policies you put in place today is ultimately going to have definitely an impact in the next 10 to 15 years. A lot of companies are using online marketing. Most companies have a Facebook, most companies have a Twitter. A lot of people are, a lot of companies are trying to figure out and crack it and see how they could use it, and where's the ROI in a like, okay? Where's the ROI in a follower at the end of the day? It's something that a lot of people are looking into, but no one's really cracked it yet. There are various theories out there. But it's very, very important that while we're trying to figure that out, and while you're trying to develop engagement platforms, customer satisfaction again becomes the core, because if an unhappy customer decides to go viral with something, the impact is huge. So again, here on the left side, customer satisfaction becomes very important to preserve for generations to come, and even today, not just in the future. And consumers will be snapped up by competitors. If you don't look into it, competition could be looking into it, and they'll come and just kind of out of left field take you by surprise, potentially. Excuse me. So here, these are just some comments of kind of what you can get. And I'm sure we've seen some or we've been a part of some ourselves. This person, Karim, he's complaining about, small business, totally unsatisfactory. The complaint center is almost the worst. Then you have some praise. So you have a combination of things, right? Now, the objective of this slide is not for me to take you through the complaints and the praises. The objective of this is that it really presents an opportunity today as a company for you to be able to engage with this customer, to be able to turn it into a positive if it's a negative, okay? And there's a lot of insight that you can get if you have a good CRM process in place on social media, because they start collaborating with you. You get to start seeing what are the flaws that you have in your service and in your system, okay? And ultimately use that to your advantage. So that's the real purpose of that. Another thing that's becoming actually interesting is the use of video, sights and sound. Text is great, which is, nice. I mean, you got Twitter, you got text. With Facebook, you have a combination. But even with YouTube, now people like this person has recorded the 1 minute that he had with a telco company, which we won't mention, and ultimately, the kind of interaction that he had with them and the dissatisfaction, and he put it on YouTube for everyone to hear. There's not much to see, but at least there's audio there. So now we know that more or less with social media and looking after your customers on social media is going to become something that is not only important, but almost not an option anymore, all right? So which are the industries that are kind of very high on that? And again, I stole this off our friends from Social Baker. Thank you for that, wherever they are here. Thank you. Appreciate that. And you could see here what they're trying to say, and please correct me if I say anything wrong, okay? All right, great. It's the response rate of different industries amongst Facebook, okay? And the response rate here, according to the subnote there, it's ultimately the interaction that someone posted and the company replied. You can see that telco 60%, followed by airlines, followed by finance. These are the top three. And then you have retail, fashion, and electronics. Why is this important? Because what we tried to do here is kind of show you a bit of an example of how that relates to the Middle East and to some parts of Egypt, okay? Is that we said, okay, that's fine. So let's take that as a platform and dig in. We ran a small analysis. We have a tool called Buzz Matrix, which basically counts, ultimately, not only counts actually, it analyzes the type of buzz, the volumes, and the messages themselves. So when we ran a small analysis for Q1 this year, we saw that there are 22,777 related topics on just customer service on social media platforms. That's blogs, forums, Facebook, Twitter, and discussion boards, okay? Which is quite a lot. That means there are 258 comments a day, and for some reason, we haven't yet looked into it, it peaks on a Tuesday, okay? If anybody has a theory, I'm ready to hear it. But that's the day it peaks. So when we looked at the MENA region and said, okay, you know what? Top three, you have finance, and you have telco, and you have airlines. So let's look at some of those industries. And what we found in the MENA region is that we found that most of the messages are related to telco and to the finance. And 80% of customer service topics, whether it be complaint, whether it be praise, whether it be about prices or what have you on telcos, it's coming from telcos. The rest is finance services. Banking is something that I think most of us here complain about, especially with our banks. I know I do. And that's an area of improvement for banks if you're in a financial service. Telcos is the same, right? And a lot of telcos have adapted. And here are some of the examples of what some of the telcos in Egypt are doing. Vodafone's Twitter has 148,000, the account. Etisalat Misr has 64,000 followers, and Mobinil has 34,000. Facebook, 1.8 million, 1.6 million for Etisalat, and 480,000 for Mobinil. Now, the reason I'm putting this is to kind of show you also, telco was the biggest portion, right? And they have a good substantial amount of followers, and they have a good substantial amount of, Facebook fans. But there is a lot more to do as well, isn't there? I mean, if we look at the previous slides, you have 11 million people on Facebook. So there's a lot of opportunities. And the reason I'm putting this is to kind of just show you that example. So why should companies take care of social care? And social care is a term that we used in order to explain, customer relationship on social media. Is because a good experience will have customers running to you. Simple. A bad experience will have customers running away from you. There was a study done that showed that 40% of people who began purchasing from a competitive brand because of its reputation of great customer service. This is a global study, but it can apply. The rule does apply still. And 55% are willing to recommend the company due to outstanding service. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, the numbers are a little bit more harsh. You have 82% of people have stopped doing business with a company that has bad customer service, and 95% of customers have taken action as a result of the experience. So now you're playing with the brand equity of your company if you don't take that. I had just a very quick story. Over the weekend, we were having dinner with a bunch of friends. We were about 10 people. And one of the friends that I have, they basically got a new job, and with the new job, thankfully, they got a nice salary as well. So they said, you know what, I'm going to go out and buy a new car. Not to name and shame the car manufacturer, they went to a luxury car manufacturer, and they wanted to buy a certain car. Now, the person who met them, the salesperson, was not very nice. As a matter of fact, every time they asked a question, they'd get a one-liner or a two-liner, a one-liner or a two-liner. And then after 10 minutes of this going back and forth, she said, okay, I'd like to have this car in white. And the answer was, I'm sorry, there is no white. You can't have it in white. What do you mean I can't have it in white? I want it in white. No, there's only black and silver. And why do you want any color? Why do you care about the color? Our customers who come and buy our cars don't care about the color. They buy it and they go, what kind of an answer is that? I mean, imagine this person, my friend's, aspiration to have that car was just purely violated by that one person. They want, you work hard, you treat yourself to a luxury brand sometimes. And the thing is that they were in between two luxury car manufacturers. Guess what happened with this one that she had the experience? Definitely not going to happen, right? But what happened was something else. And I'm going to relate this back to online. I know because this is offline, this is customer relationship and customer service. Is that 5 of us on that table got totally turned off by the brand. And we couldn't believe that this is happening coming from that brand. I asked her, are you going to tweet about this? She said, I never thought about it. So, if she decides to tweet about it, then it's going to get really bad. Now, if we bring it back to online, online doesn't really behave that much differently with social media. If you have a bad experience, an interaction with a rude employee, offline or online, you're going to have a bad situation on your hands. You're going to have, if there's unexpected change in fees that you don't communicate to your customers through a large base that you already have, you're going to have a problem on your hands. And poor quality and product of service. So you have a bad product and then you ultimately introduce a bad product and you don't possibly apologize for it, or you don't follow it up with a service. You're going to have a problem. So ultimately what happens, as we all know on social media, one bad message can have a very harsh multiplying factor. And sometimes it can get up to 500 times as a factor number. Okay? So why is it important to have a positive experience on social media, and how do I do it? What's the solution? Well, you could do a couple of things, more than a few things actually. One is pay attention to the small details. If you're going to get into a situation where you're starting your customer relationship kind of process on social media. And it's not a light thing. It's not something easy to do, by the way. The minute you start going on servicing customers on social media, you're exposing yourself. Okay? So you can't just do it without having processes in the back end in place. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But in terms of the little things that you could do as steps, if you are doing it, is number one, make sure that you communicate properly. Make sure that you tweak a few things in your product to give that delight. Exceed expectations, okay? And build opportunities for repeat business. So if you have a disgruntled customer, for example,